But I have been analysing over the last few weeks that I believe we're living in broken Britain. Nothing actually works. 12 years of Tory rule, the national debt is 4 times higher, furlough part of it, but 4 times higher than it was. The NHS isn't working. None of our public services work like they used to. You can't get a GP appointment. You often can't get your kid into the local primary school, and I could go on and on. Well, yesterday in the Times, Danny Finkelstein, Lord Finkelstein, of course, Conservative peer, said, don't fall for the gloomy tales of British decline, and basically don't listen to Farage. And they published a photograph of me in the column, which is funny, isn't it? They can choose a nice photograph of you or a very less obliging photograph of you. Well, I did ask Lord Finkelstein to come on the programme, but he's the director of Chelsea Football Club and they're playing tonight. But he is going to come into the studio because we want to have good, open, honest, head-to-head debate. But I believe I'm right with my analysis that Britain is broken. Well, joining me is Professor Matthew Goodwin. And Matthew, you've got some exclusive polling for us here at GB News on Broken Britain. What does it say?
Yeah, so we put this statement to a representative sample of British voters. We said nothing in Britain works anymore. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? 57% of the country, nearly 6 in 10 voters agree. They say nothing in Britain is really working anymore. Only 19% are disagreeing with that. It's actually a view that unites Leavers and Remainers. They're as likely as one another to say, you know what, nothing in Britain works anymore. And the reason I think this is important, I think it's really important, is because this, I think, is going to guarantee actually the Conservatives' defeat at the next election, because competency, the belief that the government is making the country better, really matters. And these voters are very hacked off.
And you said it's Leavers and Remainers who feel very much the same way on this.
Yeah.
What about Conservative and Labour voters?
Well, Labour voters, the most likely of all to say nothing in Britain's working anymore. Perhaps not too surprising. We've got a Conservative government. Yeah. But Conservatives too, actually. I mean, if you look at the numbers, more than half of all Conservatives are saying nothing in Britain, even under a Conservative government, is working anymore. And I think it's this sense, we all can pick it up in our own, friendship groups and families, this sense that actually nothing is really functioning as it should be in Britain at the moment. And this sense is overwhelming. The other thing, just briefly, that we pick up in the polling now is just the sheer numbers of people who say, I don't back any of them on any of these issues, on the economy, on inflation, on immigration. I'm just not even going over to the Labour Party necessarily. I'm just saying none of the above. I've not seen this level of disillusionment really since the early 2010s.
Yeah, there was a time, wasn't there, in the early 2010s when it looked like we had 3 Social Democrat parties. You couldn't put anything between them. Maybe we're heading back towards that time, but the disenchantment's greater now, I think, don't you?
I think it's very real. I think we've got a sort of perfect storm. You've got inflation, you've got interest rates, you've got the energy crisis, cost of living. I noticed on Twitter the other day somebody joked, well, now that Brexit's happened, well, at least we've got the borders under control, right? Well, actually, that's not really happening either. So if you're a Leaver, you're a Remainer, a Labour voter, a Conservative voter, a Lib Dem, a Green, whatever, the one thing actually that unifies us as a country, contrary to Daniel Finkelstein's column, I think it's a very interesting column, but I don't think his finger's on the pulse here. The vast majority of people in this country are actually saying, this isn't working for me. And that will have political effects.
That's how I feel about it, absolutely. And Matthew, you've got some other exclusive polling which you're going to be releasing on GB News Breakfast tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we've got some interesting stuff, actually. We've asked, this is the year of 3 Prime Ministers, of course. We've had Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak. We've asked voters, which of those Prime Ministers do you think was the best?
Oh, gosh, I think I'd be a don't know.
We've got some polling on the strikes. We've got some polling on the Rwanda plan, which obviously the government is now hoping it can get moving after the High Court judgment. So lots of interesting stuff. And of course, that key headline voting intention. Can the Conservatives actually get out of the 20s, which is where they are, 25, 26% averaging? I mean, this is worse than a 97 wipeout. This is terrible territory for Rishi Sunak and his party to be in.